with my bros. Guys, we are here to talk season 2, episode 16, entitled The Appointed Time. Now, this episode, without a doubt, has to be... I don't know if I can say it is the best episode of Bruh, but let me just say it is up there. This is one of the more serious episodes of the show, covering a very real, very serious topic in itself in regards to drug use and how not only it impacts the person doing the drugs, but also loved ones. So, off the cuff, Alyssa and Philip did their thing in this episode. Now, the opening 2 minutes alone, I was feeling so many emotions, for real. Like, the first scene by itself, because if you watched last week's episode, you know, it ended right when Mike was like, you know what, I will drag your ass out of here. And I'm like, I know we ain't about to recreate the opening fight scene of Diary of a Mad Black Woman when Charles is dragging Helen out of the house. So before moving forward in the video, make sure you take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like it. Hit subscribe as we move closer to 190,000 subscribers. Follow me on social media, links are in the description below, and hit that bell icon and select all, that way you don't miss out whenever I post content to the channel. So, I'm giving this episode a 9 out of 10. Why isn't it? Why isn't it a 10 out of 10? I have my reasons, but if I were to judge this episode strictly off of the Mike and Pam scenes, it would be a 15 out of 10. Seriously, it was really that good. But the opening scene is the fact that Pam refuses to budge. She is not leaving Mike, even though he tries to force her to leave. And it gets to the point where, you know, Pam just keeps slapping his hand away because he's trying to, you know, grab her. And he's like, you know what? I need to find your stash. And in the midst of finding his stash, you know, I'm getting scared for Pam as the, and no cutaways because this is a serious episode. Even though I got like 3 that will be very hilarious, but this is a serious episode. So she's like digging through his dresser, throwing his clothes around, and finds his bag of coke. But even before that, I gotta say, there was a moment where Mike tried to grab her, and she like shoved him back, and Mike's tie like flew around his shoulder. I don't know why, but I really like that. I just don't know why it was, but I feel like that tie, look, I know I read into this stuff too much, but hey, it's what I do. The tie went over his shoulder. I'm like, okay, I feel like this is a very, very subtle hint at how this situation is going to fly out of control very fast. So in the midst of this, he's calling her all kinds of like, bitch, you get out of here. Bitch, you better stop touching me. You better get out of here before I wreck you. And Pam isn't budging. So this really had me going, okay, not only does Pam care for Mike, but it definitely seems like this isn't the first time that Pam has had somebody in her life do this kind of thing. Now, she did mention how she had a friend who went to a rehab program, hence why she said of the appointment that Mike refused to go to. But after finding his stash, things really got physical. It got to the point where Pam punched him square in the face. I'm like, damn, Pam! And then after that, you got Mike just like throwing her on the bed. And I'm like, oh man, I know he ain't put hands on my girl. Then after that, you know, he tries to wrestle her over, you know, the bag of coke, and she slaps him in the face. I'm like, Pam, I'm glad you're winning, but I feel like the more you fight, the more mad, the madder Mike's going to get, and then he might get super physical with you. So then there's a moment where it's like he's lifting her up, and it's almost like he presses her against the bed and squeezes her, and I'm like, is this what Gary did to Andy when he bruised her ribs? You better not do it to Pam. So whatever he did, it hurt. And she's on the floor crying. And I thought he was leaving, but he actually locks himself in the bathroom. And I'm like, yo, I was not prepared for this. So Philip, you know, I know you chatted me like a few weeks ago saying I can't wait for you to watch episode 16. Yo, I was not prepared for this opening. Like, these first couple minutes for the theme song, I'm like, I've seen enough Tyler Perry movies to know when shit's going to go south. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's going south. Because when later on in the episode, when Mike comes out of the bathroom, it looks like his beard's covered in snow, like he went to the South Pole. But regardless, we got Darla calling Greg, and she's just saying that, hey, I was sent home for the next day or so. I'm not hurt, but, you know, after coming from the hospital and everything, they recommended that I stay for just a day or two off work and not to worry about her. And, you know, Greg is worried, but she's like, don't be overly concerned. But I got a friend who's having an art show tonight. I was wondering if you wanted to go around 7 or 8. And he's like, oh, yeah, I can. I'm actually meeting with my guys tonight, but I want you to meet them someday. Unbeknownst to Greg, Darla has actually met all of the guys, aside from Bill, if I remember, because at the beginning of season 2, I think that's when Darla was introduced, when she was going around Tom's building, warning people about recent car thefts and break-ins. So from there they say, you know what, hey, we'll try to reschedule to go to that art show, but if I'm done meeting with my friends tonight early, I'll call you and we can meet there. So afterwards, Greg is going to the sandwich shop to visit John, but Bill gives him a call before he goes into the shop, and Bill is asking for help, and he's like, look, I got until 3:30 to decide what to do about Regina. And Greg's like, well, hey, go and marry her, bro. Marriage is a good thing for a man. I know it didn't work out for me, but divorce is always an option. And then he's like, well, hey, man, what, divorce? You gonna take my stuff? Bill, what you gotta take? That ain't what I mean, nigga. So he's like, well, hey, you should have thought about that, because you crashed her wedding, Bill. You literally crashed her wedding. Yeah, I was there, I know. Well, you did it. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But hey, 8 p.m., Mike's house. We need to be there. It's serious. Look, if I'm free, I'll come on through. But I ain't got time to talk about Mike, because I'm going through something right now. Which is kind of interesting when you think about it, because even though Bill isn't the one on drugs, it definitely feels like he's on some kind of drugs the way he's been acting in regards to the Regina situation. Just saying. But in order to kind of soothe over Bill, who's still unsure about the marriage, Greg's like, look, if you love her, marry her. As someone who's been single for God knows way too long, I don't think it's that simple. But then again, I've been single for so long, I don't know what the dating pool looks like. But something tells me that it takes a little bit more than love in order to just say go and marry somebody. Because I know in the social media, online dating climate we live in today, it's more about the hookup culture. But I'm old-fashioned. Yes, I'm 30 years old and I'm considering myself old-fashioned. Wait, hang on. I'm about to do a tangent to Silk Sonic, but nope, not this video. That's another one. But I just don't like the idea of divorce being an option. That's not to say I'm just a one and done kind of guy, because if I ever find the right woman to get married, I want that to be my partner for life. But I guess it is good to have a way out of a bad situation, but I feel like divorce being that option, more often than not in today's culture, people want to press the eject button to mean divorce as opposed to working things out. Yes, life is short. Yes, if you've tried everything from like therapy to getting to the root of the situation as to why person A and person B aren't happy or compatible in their relationship, I can see how divorce is a viable option. But in the Bill case, I don't think they should get married. I'm sorry, I just don't. But Greg actually gets into the shop. I think the reason I love Greg so much is because he feels like an audience stand-in. Yes, Greg is technically Tom 2.0. He's like, Tom is gone for a while. Greg is here to take his place. He fills the role pretty well. And I feel like every time he interacts with Alice, he reminds me of whenever I'm playing a video game and I want to skip a cutscene. It's like, look, I don't have time for a 15-minute cutscene. I want to get to the next boss fight. So he comes in there to greet Miss Alice, and it's like, hey, I got a cough. You ain't going to ask how I am? I got a cough. You know, chest cold. Like Miss Alice, he doesn't really flat out say it rudely, but it's like, hey, Miss Alice, I really need to talk to John. You know, I ain't got time for this back and forth. So, fine. Kind of. kind of poor ass doctor are you? So he talks to John. Now, he's like, hey, John, we need to meet at Mike's place at 8. It's something really important. I'll let Mike tell you what's going on. This is the equivalent of somebody calling you or messaging you out of the blue. Hey, I need to talk to you later. About what? I'll talk to you later. About what? I'll talk to you in a few hours. Nigga, you better tell me now. I ain't going to sit around thinking all day something wrong. But then John says exactly what I was thinking while watching the scene. Why didn't you just call, bruh? What? I mean, you telling me to meet up at Mike's place at 8 o'clock, but then you're not telling me what it is. You could have just called. Well, actually, I came to get sandwiches for my coworkers. I'm like, hey, Tyler, you did it, because I was going to call the episode out for it. But then again, I don't think I would have called the episode out for it because the episode was self-aware enough for John to point out what I was thinking is, Greg, why didn't you just call? Well, hey, I'm just around the corner. That's true, but why didn't you just call? Because I would have been like, see, that would have been episode padding. But no, the episode is self-aware, and I appreciate it even more because of that. So he's making the sandwiches, and then in the middle of the phone, well, actually, in the middle of their conversation, he mentions how, hey, you know what? You're close by supporting black businesses because it's tough times. I'm like, dang it, there you go again. I like that. And then John's like, well, hey, later on, I need to talk to you about this girl in regards to serial killer Lydia. Now, Greg gets a phone call from Pam, and then John's like, wait a minute, why is Pam calling you? And I'm like, that's what I was saying last week when Pam gave Greg her number, because I'm like, what if Greg goes to meet Mike for their one-on-one meeting, and in the midst of their meeting, maybe Greg has to step away for something, and then Mike sees his phone ring and it's like, wait, why is Pam calling Greg? Because I'm like, Lord, now Mike is going to think Greg and Pam are doing something together, but that's not the case. But no, that doesn't happen in the episode. But hey, these episodes make me think, and that's what's important. So Pam's freaking out because Mike locked himself in the bathroom, and he tells John, look, John, hey, we got to go ASAP to Mike's place. And they ask Miss Alice to take over the shop. Nigga, where you going? Look, Ma, I got to go. I ain't got time for this. Ma, fine. Okay, fine. Whatever. So, we go over to the loft, and Pam is talking to Mike through the door. And look, I knew this was going to happen when I read the synopsis of the episode before hitting play, and it talked about the fact that Pam recounts a tragic situation from her past, and I'm like, wait a minute. Given how she acted earlier in the episode towards Mike, it's like she's been through this thing before with somebody she loves being high. And in season 1, she told Mike about how her bad relationship with her dad is why she hasn't had a good relationship with men as an adult. And I'm like, okay, either an ex or her dad did drugs. And then when she mentions her dad, I'm like, for the love of God, please don't tell me this man either sexually abused or physically abused his daughter. But no, even worse. When she was 9 years old, she actually found her dad had overdosed with a needle in his arm and everything. And this Mike is snorting up coke and just saying, like, I give a damn about your dead daddy. And I'm like, Mike, bitch, what did you call me? And I was like, I was feeling the scene, man. I was feeling the scene. So she's begging Mike to open the door. Like, well, hey, you know what? You said you ain't leaving until I come out. Well, I'm going to stay up in here. Guess what? You better not have to use the bathroom anytime soon. And then she's like, that's fine. There's plenty of pots out here. And she's like, you better not mess up my stuff. Okay, I laughed. That was actually pretty funny. All right. From there, on the way over to the loft, Greg and John are talking, and Greg tells John that Mike's on drugs. And John's like, oh, I knew. And then Greg's like, what? You knew? Yeah, you know, me and him did it together once. One time was enough for me, but I knew Mike would do it every now and then, but not to the point of him having an addiction this bad. So Greg is upset that John never told him about it, and he's like, well, it was just a one-time thing, bro. It's like, I wasn't going to say anything because he wanted to keep it between us. And like I said, one time was enough for me. Mike did it every now and then. And then from there, Greg is like acting like, well, again, the episode is self-aware. He's, well, what you acting like a dad for? Shoot, like a living PSA announcement. And this is like literally Greg is Tom 2.0. So there's a lot of anger there because it's like Greg feels a sense of betrayal that John never told him about the situation. But to John's knowledge, it wasn't a problem. We just smoked together one time and he would occasionally indulge, Mike would, and that's it. Like, why would you tell somebody that? I think this scene would have worked better if it was Tom, due to the fact that Greg is one of the bros, but Greg has been in California, so it's almost like, let's say you have a friend from high school and you are in like your 30s. And this friend, you've been in contact with him and everything, but you haven't like been around or seen each other in a long time, like 5 or 10 years. And when you knew each other, neither of you drank. But then he sees you drink a beer and then he flies off the handle. It's like, bro, I don't get drunk. I have like a can every once in a while. It's like, who are you to tell me what to do? So if it was Tom, who's always there, and he found out about Mike and John, his anger or feelings about it would have made more sense. Do you see what I mean? And then it turns out Greg also says that he tried, I forgot what he said he did before, but basically he did it before. But hey, I'm a doctor though. I know about the consequences and side effects of it. And then John's like, come on, but just drive, Dad. Just drive. So they get to the loft. And Pam lets them know what's going on, and they're yelling at Mike to open the door. Mike to open the door. Greg actually goes to the kitchen to get something to like pick the lock, and that was actually pretty impressive. So he comes out and is like, "We're here to help you, bro. Look, I don't need help." This line took me all the way out. I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. Mike comes out of the bathroom, and and John's like, "You saying you don't need help?" Hey, I'm sorry, I can't even get it right. Okay. It was funny, I can't say it. Okay. So Mike comes out of the bathroom, and John's like, "Nigga, you look like Frosty the Snowman saying you don't need help." Oh, that was funny. And they go back and forth. Mike's like, "Wait, how does Greg know about my drug problem?" "Well, Pam told me." And then John told me that you and him did drug. "Oh, I'm just covered by people who trying to betray me. That's what's happening." "No, y'all get the hell out of here. You just stand there. You just sit there and look pretty." And then I wanted somebody to say, "But Pam's actually standing, Mike." Okay, long story short, they try to quell the situation, calm it down. And, Mike, him and John are about to get into it. It's like, look, I'll knock your ass out. Well, hey, I'll let you knock my ass out in order to get even because I knocked your ass out. Now, you high right now. I ain't trying to take advantage of you because I want to knock your ass out. Then you're going to wake up again saying, what happened to my jaw? And then we ain't doing this again. You want to sit down. It's an intervention. So they all sit down. And then the next scene is the last 40 seconds of the episode. Regina is at the Justice of the Peace. And given the fact that she just jumps up, I'm assuming it is maybe 3:29 or 3:31. And then Bill comes in at the last second and he's like, they say hi to each other. And then the episode ends. I'm like, what the hell? So, okay. This episode. Wow. Look, I might have missed it, but I would not have been surprised if there was a little PSA thing that would have appeared at the beginning or ending of the episode. About, if you know somebody with an addiction problem, call this number. Because typically during an episode of Sisters or the Haves and the Have-Nots or the Oval, they usually have that disclaimer or PSA announcement pop up on screen. But maybe since this is BET Plus and this hasn't aired on television yet, this hasn't popped up. But this was a strong episode for real. I know that bruh gets a rap for being overly comedic from time to time, but for the most part, I think this episode worked because of the seriousness of the topic, the very well, the actors doing their thing with the characters, And even when the episode had its funny moments, I felt like they didn't take away from the tension. They were just, okay, the Frosty the Snowman line took me the hell out. Like, I couldn't even, you know how long it took me to say the line in this video. So I just feel like there was a good balance between seriousness, emotion, comedy, and crafting a well thought out storyline. Now, why I didn't give the episode a 10 was, like I said, the Greg being the dad, even though it's like, if it was Tom being this upset about not being informed about the drug situation, then I think it would have worked a little bit better. And then the ending of the episode really felt out of place because, well, no, I don't know if I should say it felt out of place, or no, here's what it was. This episode was only like 20 minutes, but like the last 3 or 4 were like in the 24 to 27 minute range. And I'm like, of all episodes, this one is the short one. Come on now. But yeah, I loved it from start to finish. But one more thing I need to plug in is an article from BET.com where Alyssa and Philip did an interview where they talked about the intense scene between Pam and Mike in this episode. They discussed their on-camera roles and romantic relationship with each other. So keep in mind, I will leave a link to this article in the comment section below. I will pin it to the top comment. This is a very good read with both Alyssa and Philip, aka Pam and Mike. You know, they talk about, well, actually it starts off talking about their prior experiences with BET. Alyssa played, hang on, in the Bobby Brown story, and Philip played a role, Patrick Lorraine, in American Soul. So it talks about how they went from castmates to soulmates on Bruh. The beautiful duo recently notched their 2-year mark in their relationship, and from there we just learn about, you know, the scene and the breakdown. So the first question is, the scenes about Mike's cocaine problem are very intense. It's not just the dialogue, but the physical confrontation, like I mentioned earlier in the episode or the video. How do you prepare mentally for powerful scenes like that? And it's really a great answer, or answers, for both of them. Essentially, you know, they have so much trust in each other as scene partners that they're able to go anywhere with each other. They kind of get into the role of the scene and their characters, and they just let it go. You know, Alyssa says, I agree with what Philip said, and mentally I have to be in a place where we're both as present as possible. Again, having that trust in the person you're with the scene with. Neither of them went over the scene that much because we thought it was so heavy. We showed up the day of filming and we're like, okay, let's just go there to that place and these emotions with the characters. It was pretty much an agreement that everything is a go. Nothing is off the table. Philip seconded that, saying we went into scene. We went over it and prepared for it, but when we got to the actual set, then it was on. We were playing our characters for the second year already, so we knew who these people were. It was just like, let's see what happens, no limits. And Alyssa didn't want to go over the scene very much because it was so heavy, but I knew that it was a heavy theme that brought me emotionally every time to a place where I was like, let me hold off until the day of. And like I said, it really showed in, oh, I almost slapped my fan off the desk. It really showed because, like I said, those first 2 minutes were so intense. Now, when we got to episode 15, it was just Alyssa feeling the frustration, and she used the frustration of episode 15 to put that to use in 16. Now, remember, in 15, she had went to see Greg to talk about the Mike situation, and, you know, the frustration of feeling like maybe the guys knew, but she didn't know about it because they never told her. But then she used those feelings towards the end of the episode when Mike revealed that he followed her from the hospital, and all of that came out in episode 16 itself. So from there, they talk about in season 2, Mike and Pam decided to have a committed relationship, but it's a dangerous mix. They both have explosive, confrontational personalities. Are Mike and Pam actually good for each other? Philip says what's compelling is that they are perfect for each other, but they're not in a place where they can realize those results. They're just not ready, but they want to be ready. I think everybody can relate to that, like wanting something that is just not working. Alyssa says they are very similar, but it's a question of whether or not they can overcome those things. She kind of goes off the rail like Mike does, but they need to be better people for themselves before they can even think about being in a relationship. That could be said about so many characters in the Tyler Perry shows. Not just in Bruh, not just in Sisters, but it bleeds over into the previous series like the Haves and the Have-Nots, If Loving You Is Wrong. And that's what I really feel is the difference between Bruh and Sisters to an extent in regards to how certain characters are handled. Because I think what does it for me with Bruh is because we're actually getting different layers of the characters. But that's just my opinion. Now, next question. How much input do you have in developing, shaping, and interpreting Mike and Pamela? And let me just say, they both agree that when it comes to Mr. Perry, I feel like if I ever met Tyler Perry, I would have to change it to Mr. Perry in my mind. I don't know why, but I just feel like I do. Essentially, you know, TP gives them the character and allows them to I think it's like, I know this sounds weird, Tyler Perry gives the cast members the skeleton and they're allowed to build up the body of the character however they want. It's almost as if you have complete freedom after he gives you the foundation of the character. So I think that's really great. And to round out the article, it basically talks about their real life relationship. I think that's why I was so emotional in this episode, because they post online occasionally, you know, Philip and Alyssa. So to actually see how close they are in real life, when you see Pam and Mike at each other's throats like this, I was like I was so upset about that. So Philip says Alyssa and I have been revolving in the same world. She actually had the project, the Bobby Brown story. I auditioned for that but didn't get the part. I would love to know what part Philip auditioned for. I watched the show to see if I recognized any friends, and I saw this girl in the scene who turned out to be Alyssa, playing her character with compassion, light, and energy. I was drawn to her and I looked her up. And Alyssa's like, I want to tell this part. I thought that was so adorable. I want to tell this part. About 6 months later, I was invited to the premiere of American Soul. I remember walking in and seeing this guy and thinking, oh, he's kind of cute. But that was it. I left it at that and went on with my night. Philip says, several months after that, I auditioned for Bruh. I was sitting in the lobby, nervous about getting the job, when this girl walks up to me. She's like, hey, are you auditioning for Mike? I need to run my lines and nobody will help me. So we're going over the lines and she says, you're going to book this. I really needed to hear that because I did everything I could to get the part. So we were just sitting there talking about the roles we've played. She mentioned her role in the Bobby Brown story and she's saying that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is that girl. And Alyssa says, while on the set for Bruh, we're asking each other these questions and we're getting to know each other. It was just one of those things where we were outside talking. I'm just very straightforward and I just looked at him and said, I like you. It was all definitely divine timing. And oh yeah, actually, last question. Does the Pam-Mike relationship ever spill over to Alyssa and Philip's relationship? Does Pam and Mike's relationship ever slip over to Alyssa and Philip's relationship? Alyssa says, I feel like when we're playing those characters with all that heavy stuff, we would snap at each other here and there. And Philip says, we shoot quickly, so I tap into the zone of Mike. and sometimes it bleeds over into Philip's life. We do have a strong foundation of knowing the difference between who we are and who these characters are and what they're going through and what we're working on. I love this article. And not to mention, I think when you read this article, it gives more context to the episode, which makes you appreciate the acting even more. And I can truly understand why they didn't want to practice this scene that much in their real life, because I could definitely see how this would spill over. So what an episode. If you haven't watched it, seriously watch it. It is season 2 episode 16. Wow. Yeah, check out the article. Like I said, I will link it in the comment section below. I really wish we got more than one flipping episode a week. You know how badly Mike was snorting that coke. That's me with Bruh episodes. Like, give him. I need more. So Thanks so much for tuning in. What did you think of the episode? And yeah, I really can't wait to see what's going to happen next, because if I'm not mistaken, we only have maybe like 5 or 6 episodes left this season. Will Bill get married? Technically, we already know that because they put out the preview last week. I wonder what kind of preview they want to put out this week for bruh. So, like I said before, like and subscribe. And if you want to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App. Also, side note, given that Mike works at the law firm, him, Hayden, Fatima, and Andy are the only black employees there. We know that Mike follows Fatima around, you know, looks in her office, intercepts her phone calls, very possessive. Mike was doing the same thing with Pam, you know, overly jealous, showing up on her dates, following her around, having her followed. Both Hayden and Mike work in like the tax department of the law firm. More than likely they know each other. They're both mentioned to be assholes. Do you think it's possible that Mike and Hayden have done some of the booger sugar together before? Could that explain Hayden's, you know, weird behavior on sisters? I'm just saying, you never know. Alright guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I will catch you in the next video.